Welcome to All Source Podcast. Today we're taking a deep dive into a world that's both incredibly vast
Yeah.
and surprisingly unknown.
Right.
Abyssal plains.
Yes.
You've sent over some fascinating sources, a Wikipedia article, some detailed geography notes,
Okay.
and a technical study,
Wow.
all about these underwater landscapes. We're going to explore how they form and what kind of life thrives in this seemingly alien environment.
It's amazing to think that these plains cover more than half of our planet's surface.
Wow.
Yet we know so little about them. It's like having a whole continent right here on Earth that's still largely unexplored.
It is hard to picture
Right.
what it's like down there. I mean, we're talking about depths of 3,000 to 6,000 meters.
That's deep.
That's like stacking two Mount Everests on top of each other.
And the pressure at those depths is mind-boggling. It's like having an elephant standing on your thumbnail.
Yeah.
What's really remarkable is that despite these extreme conditions,
Right.
life finds a way to flourish.
Okay, before we get to the life part, let's back up a bit. The sources mention that these plains are incredibly flat.
Yeah.
The geography notes actually compare them to underwater parking lots.
I've heard that.
Well, how does that even happen?
Yeah.
I mean, I thought the ocean floor was all mountains and trenches.
Well, it is initially. Think of the ocean floor as a giant conveyor belt. New crust forms at those mid-ocean ridges, spreading outwards
Okay.
and pushing older crust away. This process creates all sorts of dramatic features.
Right.
But over millions of years, something fascinating happens.
The geography notes call it a constant rain of sediment.
Exactly. Everything from volcanic ash
Oh, wow.
to the skeletons of microscopic organisms drifts down and settles on the ocean floor. It's like a slow-motion blizzard,
Oh, wow.
gradually burying those mountains and valleys under layers of sediment.
And it's not just natural stuff, right? The geography notes mention pollution, too.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
I guess what we do up here really does affect even the deepest parts of the ocean.
It does.
But for now, let's focus on how that sediment eventually creates those incredibly flat plains. It's a process that takes eons, slowly filling in all the gaps and smoothing out the rough edges.
It does.
So we've got these vast flat landscapes formed over millions of years.
Right.
It's hard to imagine anything surviving down there, let alone thriving. But the tech study 3.pdf, talks about surprising levels of biodiversity. What kinds of creatures are we talking about?
It's a whole different world down there.
Yeah.
The study focuses on just 3 types of organisms.
Okay.
Foraminifera,
Okay.
nematodes, and polychaetes.
And I've probably never heard of them.
You probably haven't, but they're incredibly diverse
Okay.
and abundant in the abyssal plains.
Hold on. The study says that a single site could have over 1,000 species of just those 3 groups. That's more diverse than a rainforest.
It is.
What are these creatures like?
Well, foraminifera are single-celled organisms
Okay.
that build intricate shells.
Oh, wow.
Nematodes are tiny worms
Okay.
that wiggle their way through the sediment.
Mm.
And polychaetes are segmented worms, some of which even have bristly appendages.
Okay, that's different.
Yeah.
What other kinds of life exist in the abyssal plains? The Wikipedia article mentions some pretty wild-looking fish,
Right.
blind fish with elongated fins, creatures that glow in the dark.
Yeah.
It's like something out of a science fiction movie.
It is a bit like another planet down there.
Yeah.
Many abyssal creatures have evolved bioluminescence,
Huh?
which means they can create their own light. That's pretty handy in a world where the sun never shines.
And since food is scarce, many of these creatures have incredibly slow metabolisms.
Exact.
They've adapted to survive on very little energy.
And then there are the hydrothermal vents and cold seeps.
Right.
These are like oases in the desert where life thrives not on sunlight, but on chemicals bubbling up from the Earth's interior.
You know, it's funny we're talking about these incredibly harsh and remote environments.
Yeah.
But they're actually teeming with life.
I know.
It makes you wonder what else is down there, what mysteries are still waiting to be uncovered.
Every expedition to the abyssal plains brings back new discoveries. We're constantly learning more about the diversity and resilience of life on our planet.
Speaking of resilience, I can't help but think about the potential impact of human activities on these seemingly pristine environments. The TechStudy3.pdf source expresses some serious concerns about deep-sea mining.
Yes, that's a major issue we need to address. As we learn more about the mineral wealth of the abyssal plains, there's growing interest in extracting those resources.
The study mentions these things called polymetallic nodules. What are those exactly?
Imagine potato-sized lumps
Okay.
scattered across the seafloor.
Yeah.
They're not very pretty,
Okay.
but they're packed with valuable metals like manganese, nickel, cobalt, and copper.
So basically, these nodules were like treasure chests full of the ingredients for everything from smartphones to electric car batteries.
Exactly. And as the demand for these metals increases,
Right.
companies are looking to the deep sea as a potential source.
Yes.
But there's a catch, of course.
The potential environmental damage.
That's a huge concern. Mining these nodules would involve scraping or vacuuming the seafloor,
Really?
potentially destroying habitats and stirring up massive sediment plumes.
So it's like clear-cutting a forest, but underwater?
Yes,
And those plumes, they sound kind of ominous.
they are. These plumes are clouds of fine sediment that can spread for miles, smothering filter-feeding organisms, blocking sunlight for deep-sea corals, and disrupting the delicate chemical balance of the water.
It all sounds pretty devastating.
It is.
I mean, these ecosystems are already adapted to extreme conditions, but this seems like a whole new level of stress.
And we have to remember that deep-sea ecosystems are incredibly slow-growing.
Right.
It could take centuries for them to recover from the kind of damage mining could cause.
So we're faced with a dilemma. We need these metals for our technology, but extracting them could have dire consequences for these unique ecosystems. What's the solution?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? There's no easy answer, but there are things we can do.
Yeah.
Firstly, we need more research to fully understand the potential impacts of mining. We need to know what's down there, how these ecosystems function, and how resilient they are.
Knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely.
The more we know, the better equipped we'll be to make informed decisions.
And we also need to explore alternatives.
Okay.
Can we reduce our reliance on these metals? Can we improve recycling rates? Can we find ways to extract them with minimal environmental impact?
It sounds like we need a combination of innovation, regulation, and a shift in our consumption patterns.
Exactly. And international cooperation is crucial.
Right.
These resources belong to everyone, not just the companies that can afford to mine them.
Of course.
We need a global framework that ensures responsible management and equitable sharing of benefits.
It's a complex challenge, but it's also an opportunity to do things differently, to learn from past mistakes and create a more sustainable future.
I agree. It's about finding a way to balance our needs with the health of our planet.
So we've covered a lot of ground today. We've explored the formation of abyssal plains, the surprising biodiversity they support, and the potential threat of deep-sea mining. It's clear that these environments are both fascinating and incredibly vulnerable. What's the key takeaway you hope our listener will remember? I think what struck me the most is the sheer scale of these ecosystems and how little we know about them. It's like we're just beginning to peek into this hidden world.
That's a great point, and it underscores the importance of scientific exploration. Before we even consider activities like mining, we need to understand what we're dealing with. We need to map these environments, identify the species that live there, and understand how these ecosystems function.
So it's not just about discovering new creatures, it's about understanding the interconnectedness of life in these deep-sea environments.
Exactly. We need to know how energy flows through these ecosystems, how nutrients are cycled, and how these processes connect to the rest of the ocean and even to the planet as a whole.
It's kind of mind-blowing to think that these seemingly remote environments could have implications for things like climate change and even the development of new medicines.
It really highlights the interconnectedness of everything on Earth. And that brings us back to the challenge of balancing scientific discovery with resource extraction. How do we explore and learn from these environments without causing irreparable harm?
It's a tough question, but the TechStudy3.pdf source does offer some suggestions. It talks about the need for careful planning, strict environmental regulations, and the development of new technologies that minimize the impact of mining.
Those are all crucial elements. We need to move away from the extract and exploit mentality of the past and adopt a more sustainable approach. It's about recognizing that these ecosystems have intrinsic value and that our actions have consequences.
It seems like there's a growing awareness of these issues, both among scientists and the public. People are starting to ask tough questions about where our resources come from and what impact our consumption patterns have on the planet.
That's a hopeful sign. Ultimately, the decisions about how we manage these resources will be made by governments and corporations. But public awareness and pressure can play a powerful role in shaping those decisions.
So what can our listeners do to make a difference? It can feel overwhelming to think about these global challenges.
You're right, it can be daunting. But even small actions can have an impact. Stay informed about these issues. Support organizations that are working to protect the oceans and make conscious choices as consumers.
It's about realizing that we're all connected to the ocean,
Mm,
no matter how far inland we live, and that our choices matter.
exactly. The abyssal plains may seem like a distant and alien world, but they're part of our planet's life support system. It's up to us to ensure that we manage these resources wisely for the benefit of both present and future generations.
And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into the world of abyssal plains.
Oh.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a mix of awe, wonder, and a renewed sense of responsibility. It's amazing to think about all the mysteries that still lie hidden in these vast underwater landscapes.
It's been a fascinating journey. Thank you for having me.
It was our pleasure. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the All Sorts podcast. If this exploration has sparked your curiosity, remember to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And for even more fascinating content that will light up your imagination, like the bioluminescent creatures of the abyssal plains. Be sure to follow us on X, Instagram, and Threads. Until next time, keep exploring.